When Dr. Maya Ellison walked into Rivergate Federal Savings, she expected a simple deposit, not a spectacle of prejudice. The moment she presented her large check, suspicion replaced courtesy. Within minutes, two officers stormed in, ready to make an example of her. To them, she was just another black woman, trying something slick, an easy arrest to forget. They never asked, never listened, only judged. They didn't know the truth. She wasn't a fraud. She was a senior FBI agent. And when they slapped the cuffs on her wrists, they unknowingly set off a battle that would expose every lie they lived by. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The morning sun cast long shadows across Maya's kitchen as she finished her call with Avery. Their discussion about wire transfers and financial tracking had been productive, but now it was time to focus on a more personal matter. The $287,400 check felt heavy in her hands, not from its physical weight, but from what it represented. Years of her father's community work would live on through this tech center. Maya hummed "This Little Light of Mine" as she slipped on her black sleeveless top and white shorts. The casual outfit felt right for her day off. Comfortable, unassuming. She checked her reflection briefly, adjusting her natural hair, then grabbed her purse and the envelope containing the check. The drive to Rivergate Federal Savings was peaceful. Maya watched people starting their day, shopkeepers raising metal gates, kids waiting for school buses, elderly couples taking their morning walks. This was the community her father had served for decades. The thought brought a small smile to her face. Rivergate's lobby buzzed with mid-morning activity when Maya walked in. The marble floors gleamed under fluorescent lights, and the air conditioning hummed steadily. An elderly man helped his wife count quarters at one of the writing stations. A young mother gently rocked her stroller back and forth, trying to soothe a fussy baby. The familiar sounds of receipt printers and gentle conversation filled the air. Maya took her place in line, patient and observant. When it was her turn, she approached Angela Ruiz's window with a warm smile. The young teller returned the greeting, though Maya noticed a flicker of uncertainty cross her face as she opened the envelope. "Good morning," Maya said, her voice carrying its usual calm authority. "I'd like to deposit this check, please." Angela's eyes widened slightly at the amount, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "Of course, ma'am. May I see your ID?" Maya produced her driver's license without hesitation. As Angela began processing the transaction, Priscilla Knott's sharp clicks of heels approached from behind the counter. The branch manager's perfectly pressed suit and rigid posture seemed at odds with the relaxed morning atmosphere. "Is there something I can help with?" Priscilla's tone was honey-coated steel, her eyes scanning Maya's casual attire with poorly concealed judgment. "I'm just depositing a check," Maya explained patiently. "It's a settlement from a federal whistleblower fund." Priscilla's perfectly plucked eyebrows arched. "A settlement? And you're certain about the authenticity of this item?" The way she said item made Maya's skin prickle, but she kept her voice steady. "Yes, I am. The documentation is all in order." "I see." Priscilla's lips thinned. "And your employment status?" "That's relevant how?" Maya asked, though she knew exactly why they were playing this game. She'd seen it before, just usually from the other side of an investigation. "We have certain protocols for unusual transactions," Priscilla replied, her tone growing increasingly patronizing. "For your protection, of course." Maya noticed Angela shifting uncomfortably at her terminal, eyes darting between her computer screen and her manager. The young teller's discomfort was palpable. "I understand protocols," Maya said, "but this is a valid check, and I'm a longtime customer of this bank." Priscilla's smile didn't reach her eyes. "If you'll excuse me, I need to consult with our security team." She turned sharply, heels clicking away toward her office. The minutes ticked by. Maya remained standing calmly at the counter, aware of the growing attention from other customers. The mother with the stroller had stopped rocking it, her eyes fixed on the scene. The elderly couple whispered to each other, shaking their heads. The lobby doors opened, and Officers Dwyer and Harlan strode in, their badges catching the morning light. They exchanged knowing looks with Priscilla, who gestured toward Maya with a subtle nod. The tension in the room shifted immediately. Other customers stepped back, creating an invisible barrier around Maya. She could feel their phones coming out, cameras ready. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was becoming a spectacle. Officer Harlan positioned himself slightly behind Maya, while Dwyer approached from the front, hand resting casually on his belt. Their practiced choreography spoke of countless similar situations. "Ma'am, step away from the counter." Harlan's voice carried the false authority of someone who enjoyed wielding power. Maya stood her ground, her voice clear and controlled. "I'm depositing my check. There's no problem here." "You're under investigation for attempted fraud," Harlan snapped, his patience already thin. Before Maya could respond, she felt the cold metal of handcuffs against her wrists. The click echoed through the marble lobby, seeming to bounce off every surface. Phones rose higher in the crowd, recording every moment. The morning sun that had felt so warm and promising in her kitchen now felt harsh through the bank's windows, highlighting every detail of her humiliation. The sound of whispers and camera shutters filled the air, replacing the earlier peaceful atmosphere of routine banking transactions. The cold marble pressed against Maya's cheek as Officer Harlan forced her down onto the counter. Her arms twisted behind her back at an awkward angle, shoulders straining against their natural range of motion. The metallic bite of handcuffs dug into her wrists as Harlan cranked them several notches too tight, sending sharp jolts of pain through her hands. "Stop resisting!" Harlan growled, though Maya hadn't moved a muscle. "I'm not resisting," she replied evenly, her voice steady despite the pressure on her spine. "If you'd just listen—" "Shut it," Dwyer cut her off, turning to face the growing crowd of onlookers with their phones raised. "Everyone needs to put their devices away right now. This is an active police investigation." A few people lowered their phones, but most kept recording. Through the corner of her eye, Maya could see Priscilla Knott standing behind her desk, arms crossed with an expression of manufactured concern. "We have very strict protocols about large transactions," Priscilla announced to no one in particular, her voice carrying across the lobby. "This is all standard procedure." Maya tried again, speaking clearly despite her uncomfortable position. "The check is legitimate. I can prove—" "Sure it is," Harlan sneered, pressing down harder. "Just like all the other stolen checks we see. You really thought you could walk in here and cash this? If you'd check my ID properly." "Oh, we checked your fake ID all right," Dwyer interrupted with a smirk. "Real cute try with that one." The pain in Maya's wrists intensified as the cuffs bit deeper. She focused on her breathing, maintaining her composure even as her hands began to tingle from restricted circulation. Years of training and experience helped her stay centered, though fury burned beneath her calm exterior. "Young lady, that's no way to treat anybody," a strong voice called out from the line. Maya recognized Mr. Hammond, a retired veteran who frequented the bank. He stood straight-backed despite his age, phone held steadily at eye level. "I've been banking here 40 years, and I've never seen such a disgrace." Dwyer's head snapped toward the older man. "Sir, put the phone away now, or you'll be interfering with police business." "The only interference I see is with this woman's civil rights," Mr. Hammond replied firmly, though he took a step back when Dwyer advanced toward him menacingly. "Final warning," Dwyer growled. The officers yanked Maya upright, gripping her arms painfully as they marched her toward the exit. Her legs were steady, her head held high despite the spectacle. Customers pressed against the walls to let them pass, their phones tracking every step. Some looked away in discomfort. Others stared openly, and a few shook their heads in disapproval at the officers' rough handling. As they passed through the glass doors into the morning sun, Harlan leaned close to Maya's ear. "Let's see that smug look now," he whispered, his breath hot against her skin. "Not so composed anymore, are we?" Maya said nothing, but her mind recorded every detail. Badge number 6722, time approximately 10:17 a.m. 2 witnesses with phones in the parking lot. Security camera above exit door. They reached the patrol car, its black and white paint gleaming in the sunlight. Dwyer opened the back door while Harlan shoved Maya's head down, forcing her into the confined space. The vinyl seats were hot from sitting in the sun, and the cage between the front and back seats cast prison bar shadows across her face. "Another scammer caught," Dwyer announced cheerfully as he slid into the driver's seat. "That makes what? 3 this month." Harlan laughed as he dropped into the passenger side. "Yeah, but this one's special. Did you see how she came in? All dressed up fancy in her little workout outfit, thinking that makes her legitimate." Maya remained silent in the back, watching through the window as people continued filming from the bank's entrance. She could see Priscilla speaking to another customer, gesturing dismissively. Mr. Hammond stood his ground near the door, phone still raised, his expression grim. The car door slammed with a heavy thunk that seemed to emphasize the finality of her situation. Maya studied her reflection in the window glass, superimposed over the bank's facade. Behind her distorted image, she could see the growing crowd, their phones still capturing every moment of this humiliation. Taking a deep breath, Maya whispered under her breath, "They have no idea who they just arrested." Her eyes hardened as she watched the scene outside, mentally cataloging every detail, every face, every violation of procedure. The patrol car's engine rumbled to life, drowning out the murmur of the crowd. Maya sat straight despite her discomfort, dignity intact, even as the cuffs continued to bite into her wrists. Harlan adjusted his rearview mirror to watch her, his smirk visible in the reflection. But Maya's gaze remained fixed forward, her expression a mask of calm determination. Through the windshield, she could see the bank's sign catching the morning light. The words, "Rivergate Federal Savings," standing out in bold letters against the blue sky. The engine's idle seemed to punctuate the moment as they prepared to pull away from the curb. The fluorescent lights hummed incessantly overhead, casting harsh shadows across the booking room's gray walls. Maya winced as the fingerprint ink stained her fingers black, each press against the paper sending fresh waves of pain through her still throbbing wrists. The cuffs had left angry red marks that would surely bruise. Officer Reynolds, a tired-looking desk sergeant, mechanically guided her hand through the printing process. Right thumb. Roll left to right. Again. His voice carried the bored cadence of someone who'd done this thousands of times. Through the glass partition, Maya could see Harlan and Dwyer hunched over a computer terminal, taking turns typing their incident report. Their casual postures and occasional chuckles made her stomach turn. Subject displayed aggressive body language. Dwyer read aloud as he typed. "Refused to comply with verbal commands." "Add furtive movements," Harlan suggested, grinning. "That's always good." "Nice." Dwyer's fingers clicked across the keyboard. "What about combative attitude?" "Perfect." "Oh, and don't forget, non-compliant tone." "That's my favorite." Maya watched them fabricate their narrative, each false detail adding another layer to their lies. She'd seen countless reports like this before, from the other side of investigations. The familiar phrases they used were like a checklist of police report cliches designed to justify excessive force and rights violations. "I need to make my phone call," Maya announced firmly, loud enough to carry through the glass. Harlan barely glanced up. "When we're done processing you, it's my right. I should have been allowed to call..." "Rights?" Harlan laughed, finally turning to face her. "You got a lot of nerve talking about rights after trying to pass bad checks." A younger officer, his nameplate read Martinez, shifted uncomfortably at his desk nearby. He looked up from his paperwork, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Hey, Harlan," Martinez ventured cautiously. "Shouldn't we at least..." "Easy one today." Harlan cut him off, leaning back in his chair. "Get this, she even claimed she works for the feds." He shook his head, chuckling. "These scammers get more creative every time." Martinez frowned slightly, but dropped his eyes back to his desk, unwilling to challenge his senior officer. Maya noted his reaction, another detail for later. "My cuffs were too tight," Maya stated clearly, making sure multiple officers could hear. "I requested medical attention. That was denied. I've asked for my phone call 3 times now. Also denied." "Keep a record of your complaints," Harlan mocked. "I'm sure someone cares." The property clerk, a thin woman named Diane, began cataloging Maya's belongings. One envelope containing check. She paused, squinting at the amount. $287,400. Her eyebrows shot up. As Diane opened the envelope, something slipped out. A small paper strip that fluttered to the floor. Maya's breath caught. She recognized the format instantly. A teller's ledger slip, the kind used to track large transactions. But these numbers? They matched a sequence she'd been investigating for months. Same font, same prefix pattern used by the veterans' charity fraud ring she was building a case against. Her mind raced. The laundering operation she'd been tracking? Could Rivergate Federal be the hub? The missing piece that explained how dirty money moved through legitimate channels? She forced her expression to remain neutral, even as the implications crashed over her. The booking room door swung open. Assistant District Attorney Trent Marbury strode in, his perfectly pressed suit at odds with the institutional surroundings. Maya's jaw tightened. She knew him by reputation. The man who'd buried evidence in the Thompson police brutality case last year, claiming insufficient cause for prosecution, despite clear video footage. "Where's our high-profile check fraud suspect?" Marbury announced, scanning the room with theatrical interest. His eyes landed on Maya, and his practiced smile widened. "Ah, there you are." He approached the booking desk, making a show of examining the property forms. "Quite an ambitious amount you tried to pass today. But don't worry, we take financial crimes very seriously in this jurisdiction." Maya met his gaze steadily, noting how his confidence seemed to falter slightly when she didn't look away. "We'll make sure this doesn't just disappear," Marbury continued, his voice carrying for the benefit of the officers watching. "Can't have people thinking they can walk into our banks and..." "You're making the worst mistake of your career," Maya interrupted quietly, her chin raised. Every eye in the room locked onto her face. Marbury's laugh echoed off the concrete walls, but there was a flicker of something. Uncertainty? Concern? Behind his eyes. He turned away quickly, gesturing for an officer to open the holding cell. The metal door scraped across the floor with a grinding shriek. Maya watched Marbury's retreating back as the cell door slammed shut, the sound reverberating through the booking room like a judge's gavel. She sat on the hard bench, her mind already mapping connections between the ledger slip, the bank, and the man who'd just revealed his own place in the puzzle. The fluorescent lights continued their endless drone overhead. In the cell next to her, someone hummed an old blues song. Maya closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing, knowing that patience was now her strongest weapon. The truth would come out. It always did. Late afternoon sun slanted through the narrow holding cell windows, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Maya had spent hours cataloging every detail of her surroundings: the crack in the far wall, the rusty drain in the corner, the endless parade of officers who just happened to walk past her cell. The precinct's usual afternoon lull shattered as voices echoed down the corridor. Maya recognized Marbury's practiced cadence before she saw him, the same tone he used in press conferences when declaring justice served after letting corrupt cops walk free. "We have procedures that must be followed," Marbury announced loudly, his voice carrying deliberately. "The integrity of our financial institutions." He rounded the corner with Chief Elena Robles close behind. The chief's normally composed face showed strain around the eyes. Behind them, Maya glimpsed the telltale red recording lights of news cameras in the hallway. "As I was explaining to the press," Marbury continued, positioning himself where the cameras could catch his profile, "no one is above the law in Rivergate. When suspicious financial activity is reported, we investigate thoroughly, regardless of how the suspect presents themselves." Maya noticed how Robles winced slightly at the word suspect. The chief's dark eyes darted between Maya and the media presence, clearly weighing political consequences. "I'd like a private word with the chief," Maya stated clearly, her voice carrying just enough to make the reporters lean forward. Marbury's practiced smile flickered. "Any discussions about your case should go through proper channels." "Just 5 minutes," Maya pressed, looking directly at Robles. "You can spare that much, can't you, Chief?" The cameras swung toward Robles. She straightened her shoulders, aware of the optics. "Of course, my office. I really must advise against—" Marbury started. "It's my department, Mr. Marbury," Robles cut in, her tone clipped. She gestured to an officer to unlock the cell. Maya rose slowly, her muscles stiff from hours on the metal bench. She kept her face neutral as she followed Robles down the hallway, past the cluster of reporters shouting questions. Marbury trailed behind them, his expensive shoes clicking against the linoleum. The chief's office was small but orderly. Citations and community awards lined one wall, while stacked case files dominated her desk. Robles closed the door, muffling the chaos outside. "All right," she said, settling behind her desk. "What's so urgent?" Maya reached for her wallet, which had been returned during processing. She opened it slowly, deliberately, letting the federal badge catch the light as she held it up. "Supervisory Special Agent Maya Ellison," she stated quietly. "FBI Civil Rights and Financial Crimes Division." The color drained from Robles's face. Behind Maya, she heard Marbury's sharp intake of breath, his trademark smile surely faltering. "I don't—" Robles started. "The check your officers accused me of forging," Maya continued. "Settlement funds from a federal whistleblower case, meant for a community technology center in my father's name." Marbury recovered quickly, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. This changes nothing about procedure. In fact, given the federal connection, we'll need to place the entire file under review. Under review? Maya turned to face him. "You mean buried, classified, hidden behind bureaucracy until the media loses interest?" "These are serious allegations," Marbury pressed. "We can't simply dismiss." "Your officers profiled me," Maya stated flatly. "Denied my rights, used excessive force, all while your bank manager helped cover up suspicious transactions I've been investigating for months. Would you like me to continue?" Robles rubbed her temples. "Agent Ellison, I assure you we'll sort this out. But we need to handle this carefully. The union—" "The union?" Maya's voice was quiet but sharp. "Is that what you're worried about, Chief? Not the civil rights violations? Not the fact that your officers laid hands on a federal agent without cause?" Maya watched understanding dawn in Robles's eyes, the realization that this wouldn't simply go away. But she also saw the fear of the police union's backlash, fear of racial tensions exploding, fear of her own career imploding if she didn't handle this carefully. "I'll expedite your release paperwork," Robles said finally. "Pending review of the situation." "Pending review?" Maya echoed. "How convenient." Hours later, Maya walked through the precinct's front doors into the cold night air. Camera flashes erupted around her, reporters shouting questions she wouldn't answer. Not yet. She kept her face impassive as she descended the steps. Dwyer and Harlan stood near their patrol car, watching. Their smirks said everything about how untouchable they felt, how sure they were that the system would protect them as it always had. The night wind cut through Maya's thin clothes. She'd been wearing workout gear when they arrested her, hours and lifetimes ago. She paused at the bottom of the steps, letting the cold air fill her lungs. "You're all in my jurisdiction now," she whispered, too soft for anyone else to hear. Morning sunlight filtered through the worn lace curtains of Geneva Ellison's kitchen, casting delicate patterns across the well-loved wooden table. Maya sat with her hands wrapped around a steaming coffee mug, trying not to wince as the ceramic pressed against her bruised wrists. The familiar scent of her mother's coffee, strong and rich with just a hint of chicory, filled the air, a comfort she desperately needed after yesterday's humiliation. The screen door creaked open as Avery Cho arrived, her arms laden with laptops and manila folders. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she'd been up all night digging through databases. Behind her came Pastor Lila Monroe, her usual vibrant energy contained into something more dangerous. Quiet, focused fury. "I pulled everything I could find," Avery announced, spreading files across the table. Transaction records, routing numbers, the whole digital trail of that settlement check. Geneva moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, pouring coffee for the newcomers. "You girls need to eat something too. Can't fight injustice on an empty stomach." "The check's completely legitimate," Avery continued, pulling up documents on her laptop. "I traced it through 3 federal systems. Those officers couldn't have flagged any real irregularities because there weren't any to find." Pastor Lila leaned forward, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined the paperwork. "I've already called every civil rights reporter I know. The community needs to hear about this, not just what happened to you, Maya, but the pattern it represents." Maya nodded slowly, her finger tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "We need to be strategic. They're already trying to bury this under bureaucracy and procedural delays. They've been using the same playbook since I was your age," Geneva said, setting a plate of biscuits on the table. Her voice carried the weight of decades watching the same injustices play out. Different bank names, different faces behind the counter, same old story. They see our money as suspicious and our presence as a threat. "Tell them about 87, Mama," Maya prompted, knowing her mother's sharp memory could help connect the dots. Geneva settled into her chair, her hands folded. Rivergate used to be First State Trust back then. They had this policy, never written down, of course, about enhanced verification for certain neighborhoods. Your father spent months gathering evidence, collecting stories from folks who'd been turned away, denied loans, treated like criminals for trying to cash their own paychecks. Avery's fingers flew across her keyboard. The bank's current board chairman. His family owned First State Trust before the merger. I bet if we dig deep enough, we'll find the same discriminatory patterns carried over. We need to fight this on multiple fronts, Pastor Lila declared, pulling out her own notebook. Legal pressure, yes, but also moral pressure. My congregation isn't going to sit quiet while they try to criminalize one of our own. Maya stood and walked to the window, stretching her sore muscles. FOIA requests first. We need every piece of paper related to yesterday's arrest. Body cam footage, dispatch records, internal communications. Avery, can you start the formal requests? Already drafted, Avery nodded. I'll submit them today. And I've got programs running to track unusual financial patterns through that branch. If they're using security protocols to hide something bigger, my youth group can organize peaceful protests, Pastor Lila added. Keep media attention focused while we gather evidence. And Maya, when you're ready to tell your story, I want you speaking from my pulpit first. Geneva watched them plan, her expression both proud and worried. She rose and walked to an old cabinet, pulling out a thick photo album. I've kept everything, she said, returning to the table. Every newspaper article about discriminatory banking practices, every community meeting notice, every letter to the editor your father wrote. 30 years of evidence that nothing's really changed. Maya squeezed her mother's hand, recognizing the pain and determination in her voice. This time we're going to make it stick, Mama. We have tools Daddy didn't have. Digital records, video evidence, federal jurisdiction. Avery looked up from her laptop. I've mapped out our initial strategy. We hit them with information requests from multiple angles, federal, state, and local. Make it impossible to keep track of what they're trying to hide. Meanwhile, I'll data mine their transaction patterns, looking for any irregularities that might explain why they reacted so aggressively to Maya's presence. The group worked through the morning and into the afternoon, the kitchen table becoming a war room. Papers spread across its surface, laptops hummed, and phones buzzed with messages from allies being mobilized. The smell of coffee gave way to Geneva's vegetable soup, as she insisted they break for lunch. As dusk began to settle outside, Maya walked to the living room and carefully lifted her father's photograph from its place of honor. The image showed him in his postal worker's uniform, proud and dignified despite the challenges he'd faced. She carried it back to the kitchen, placing it gently on the table amid their battle plans. "We're going to finish what you started, Daddy," she said softly, touching the glass over his face. The bruises on her wrists ached, but her voice was steady. She turned toward the window, her jaw set with determination, as the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in fierce oranges and purples. Maya's apartment was quiet, except for the gentle hum of her laptop fan as she reviewed case files. The morning sun cast long shadows across her desk when urgent knocking erupted at her door. She recognized Avery's distinctive rapid-fire pattern before she even reached for the handle. Avery burst in, her hair disheveled, and her messenger bag half open. Her laptop was already powered up in her hands. "Someone posted the footage," she announced breathlessly. "It's gone viral. Over 100,000 views in just 2 hours." Maya's heart quickened, but she kept her voice steady. "Show me." They settled on Maya's worn leather couch as Avery pulled up the video. The footage was crystal clear, captured from multiple angles by different bystanders in the bank lobby. The timestamp showed 10:17 a.m., 3 days ago. The first clip showed Maya standing calmly at the counter, her posture relaxed, hands visible. The second angle captured Harlan and Dwyer's aggressive approach, their hands already on their weapons. The audio was damning, Maya's measured responses contrasting sharply with their escalating threats. "Look at the comments," Avery said, scrolling through an endless stream of outraged responses. People are furious. It's being shared by civil rights groups, police accountability pages, even some politicians. Maya watched herself on screen, saw the moment the cuffs went on too tight, heard her own controlled breathing as they roughly handled her. The familiar anger rose in her chest, but she pushed it down. How many news outlets have picked it up? All the local stations, and it's starting to hit national. Avery pulled up multiple browser tabs. Channel 7 just ran a special report. The Atlanta Voice is running it as their lead story. Social media's exploding. Maya's phone buzzed. Chief Robles' office number. She let it go to voicemail. "They can't ignore this now," Avery said, her voice tight with vindication. "The whole city can see exactly what happened." The phone buzzed again. This time, Maya answered and put it on speaker. "Agent Ellison, this is Chief Robles." The police chief's voice was carefully neutral. "I'm calling to inform you that Officers Dwyer and Harlan have been placed on administrative leave pending a full internal review of the incident at Rivergate Federal." "I appreciate being notified," Maya replied evenly. "We take these matters very seriously," Robles continued, sounding like she was reading from a prepared statement. "The department is committed to a thorough and transparent investigation." After the call ended, Avery snorted. "Transparent? Now that there's video evidence they can't hide?" "They'll try to wait it out," Maya said, rising to make coffee. Her kitchen was small but efficient, the morning light warming the pale yellow walls. Public outrage has a short shelf life. Throughout the day, messages poured in. Pastor Lila called to say her phone was ringing non-stop with media requests. Community leaders wanted statements. Civil rights organizations offered support. By evening, Maya needed space to think. She met Pastor Lila at their usual spot, a small soul food restaurant tucked away on Auburn Avenue. The dinner crowd was thin, allowing them a quiet corner booth. "The video's exactly what we needed," Lila said, stirring her sweet tea. "But you're right to be cautious. I've seen too many cases where clear evidence gets buried under procedure and protocol." Maya nodded, pushing her collard greens around her plate. "Public outrage fades fast. We need concrete results while people are still paying attention." "The police union's already pushing back," Lila warned, saying the video doesn't show the full context. "Claiming you were confrontational before filming started." "Let them try that line," Maya said. "There's security footage from the bank's cameras that shows the entire interaction. Avery's already submitted a formal request for it." "How are you holding up?" Lila asked softly, noting the way Maya was still favoring her wrists. "I'm angry," Maya admitted. "But it's a focused anger. Every time I start to let it consume me, I remember what we're really fighting for. This isn't just about one incident. It's about changing the whole system that made it possible." They finished their meal discussing strategy, timing, and the delicate balance between public pressure and legal process. The restaurant had nearly emptied when they finally stood to leave. "Keep your guard up," Lila advised as they walked to their cars. "They're going to try to discredit you, wear you down, make you doubt yourself." "I know their playbook," Maya assured her. "I've spent my career studying it." The drive home started normally enough. Maya took her usual route, music playing softly on the radio. It was 3 blocks from her apartment when she noticed the dark SUV in her rearview mirror. Police issue, unmarked, but she recognized the subtle details. The reinforced bumper, the spotlight mount. The SUV stayed 3 car lengths back, matching her turns. She maintained her speed exactly at the limit, made her signals precisely 3 seconds before each turn. Her hands stayed at 10 and 2 on the wheel. When she stopped at a red light, the SUV pulled up closer. Through her mirror, she could make out 2 figures in the front seat. The light turned green, and she proceeded forward, her voice barely a whisper in the quiet car. "I see you." After another block, the SUV suddenly accelerated, swung into the left lane, and peeled away into the night. Maya watched it disappear around a corner, her expression unchanged. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of appearing rattled. Early morning light filtered through the blinds of Avery's home office, casting thin stripes across stacks of papers and multiple computer monitors. The desk was barely visible under spreadsheets, bank statements, and sticky notes covered in Avery's precise handwriting. 2 empty coffee cups sat precariously close to her keyboard. Maya perched on the edge of a spare chair, watching as Avery's fingers flew across the keys. "These serial numbers from the ledger," Avery muttered. "They're not random. Look at this pattern." She pulled up a spreadsheet showing rows of numbers, each highlighted in different colors. Every third Friday, Rivergate processes a batch of cashier's checks, all around $9,000, just under the reporting threshold. Smart, Maya nodded. Where do they go? That's the beautiful part. Avery clicked to another screen. I've tracked them to 6 different nonprofits, all registered in the last 3 years, all claiming to support veterans programs. She scrolled through the list. Veterans United Progress, Heroes Home Foundation, Service Members First. Nice names, right? Maya leaned closer. Too nice. What programs do they actually run? That's just it. Avery pulled up tax records. 0 expenditure on actual veteran services. No employees. No physical addresses. Just P.O. boxes. But they all received community development grants from Rivergate. She paused on one document. And look who signs as board treasurer for 3 of them. Priscilla Knott, Maya read, her voice tight, using different middle initials each time. But that's her signature. Avery nodded vigorously. It gets better. These shell companies? They're all registered to the same building. She pulled up a street view photo. A strip mall office suite owned by... She drummed her fingers on the desk for dramatic effect. Marwin Holdings, LLC. Let me guess. Marbury Enterprises subsidiary? Got it in one. Our friendly neighborhood ADA has his fingers deep in this pie. Maya stood, stretching her shoulders. We need warrants. Fast, before they start shredding papers. Already on it. Avery reached for her phone. Judge Martinez owes me a favor from that cyber fraud case last year. She's straight as an arrow, no connections to Marbury's circle. While Avery made the call, Maya began drafting affidavits on her laptop. The words flowed easily. Years of experience turning complex financial crimes into clear narratives that judges could follow. She detailed the pattern of suspicious transactions, the shell company structures, the connection to her false arrest. Across town, in a wood-paneled office with a view of the courthouse, Priscilla Knott sat rigid in a leather chair. Her usually perfect manicure was chipped, her hands twisting in her lap. They're going to find everything, she said, voice barely above a whisper. The routing, the shell companies, all of it. Trent Marbury lounged behind his massive desk, projecting calm he didn't quite feel. Lower your voice, Priscilla. These walls are thick, but there's no need to test them. You don't understand. She saw the ledger. During booking, it was in with her check. That FBI agent saw our actual ledger. Then we discredit her, Marbury said smoothly. It's her word against yours. A supposedly professional woman who showed up to cash a massive check in gym clothes, who became confrontational when asked routine security questions. But the video can be interpreted many ways. He stood, walking to a cabinet and pulling out 2 crystal glasses. The public has a short memory, Priscilla. In a week, they'll be outraged about something else. Stick to the script. We'll make her the liar. Back in Avery's office, the morning had progressed into afternoon. Takeout containers from the Vietnamese place down the street sat empty beside fresh coffee cups. Maya was on her 3rd draft of the warrant applications when Avery suddenly sat up straight. Got movement, she said, eyes locked on her screen. Large cash withdrawals at 3 different Rivergate branches in the last hour. They're trying to empty the accounts. Maya smiled grimly. Classic panic move. Document everything. Judge Martinez will want to see the real-time evidence. Avery's phone chimed. A secure message. Her face broke into a broad grin. Speaking of the judge. She turned her laptop so Maya could see. First warrant approved. We can access all Rivergate's internal transaction records for the past 5 years. A second chime followed quickly. And that's the warrant for the shell company's financial records. One nail at a time, Maya said, raising her coffee cup. Avery grabbed hers, and they clinked the ceramic mugs together in a quiet toast. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the blinds now, catching dust motes in its golden light. The warrant approvals continued to arrive steadily, each one a small victory, each one tightening the net. Maya and Avery worked in companionable focus, building their case methodically, document by document. On Avery's desk, between stacks of papers, her father's old brass paperweight caught the light. It was engraved with words that seemed particularly fitting today. Justice moves slow, but grinds fine. Evening settled over the First Baptist Church, painting its stained glass windows in deep purples and golds. Inside the church hall, metal folding chairs scraped against worn wooden floors as people filled the rows. The familiar scent of old hymnals and lemon polish hung in the air. Maya stood at the back, watching the crowd grow. Mrs. Geneva Ellison's senior choir warmed up in the corner, their harmonies soft and sweet. Amazing Grace, in a minor key that made the hair on Maya's neck stand up. Packed house, Avery whispered, sliding up beside her with a stack of handouts. Even Channel 4 showed up. Good, Maya nodded. The more witnesses, the better. Pastor Lila Monroe stepped to the podium, her presence commanding immediate attention. The murmur of voices faded to respectful silence. She adjusted the microphone, her deep voice filling the hall. "We gather tonight," she began, "because truth needs no permission to be spoken. Because justice delayed is justice denied. Because what happened to Dr. Maya Ellison could have happened to any of us, and has happened to too many." Maya watched faces in the crowd. Young mothers with children in their laps. Elderly couples who'd marched decades ago. Small business owners who'd faced their own battles with Rivergate's policies. Chief Robles sat rigid in the front row, flanked by two captains. "Dr. Ellison," Lila continued, "has agreed to explain exactly how discrimination hides behind paperwork and procedures, how prejudice wears a suit and tie and calls itself protocol." She gestured Maya forward. "Listen carefully, family. This is how they do it." Maya took the podium, straightening papers she didn't need. She'd practiced this speech all day, stripping away legal jargon, making complex fraud simple enough for anyone to understand. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "I'm going to tell you about two kinds of numbers. The first kind is right there on your bank statement. Deposits, withdrawals, honest business. The second kind—" She paused, meeting eyes across the room. "The second kind hides in shadow ledgers and shell companies, turning prejudice into profit." She explained how banks could use security protocols to delay some customers but fast-track others. How enhanced verification became a tool of discrimination. How money moved through fake charities, each step technically legal but morally bankrupt. "When they put me in handcuffs," she said, her voice steady, "they thought they were hiding their bigger crime. But here's what they didn't know. I've spent 20 years following money trails just like this one. I've seen how bias becomes business as usual." In the third row, Mr. Hammond, the veteran who'd spoken up during her arrest, nodded vigorously. Next to him, his wife dabbed her eyes with a tissue. "This isn't about one bad day at one bank branch," Maya continued. "This is about systems designed to look clean while staying dirty. About policies that protect prejudice instead of people." She walked the audience through simple examples. How Rivergate's community development money vanished into empty offices. How fake veterans' charities shuffled funds between accounts. How kickbacks got labeled as consulting fees. "But here's the good news," she said, and even the reporters leaned forward. "Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Once you know how the game works, you can't unknow it. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it." Chief Elena Robles stood then, making her way to the podium. Her uniform was crisp, her expression carefully neutral. Maya stepped aside, watching. "The Rivergate Police Department," Robles began, then paused to clear her throat. "We have failed our community's trust. Not just in Dr. Ellison's case, but in ways that run deep and long." She gripped the podium edges. "Therefore, I am announcing tonight that we have invited the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division to conduct a full pattern or practice investigation of our policies and procedures." The crowd erupted. Some cheered, others wept. Pastor Lila raised her hands for quiet. "Furthermore," Robles continued, "we are implementing immediate reforms in our response protocols and arrest procedures. No more unauthorized handcuffing, no more denied phone calls, no more selective enforcement of banking regulations." Maya watched the chief's face carefully. There was fear there, fear of the police union's reaction, fear of political backlash, but something else, too. Maybe relief, maybe hope. The senior choir moved to the front then, arranging themselves in neat rows. Their voices rose in "Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around," the old civil rights anthem filling every corner of the hall. People stood, swaying, some singing along. Maya felt warmth spread through her chest. Not victory, not yet, but validation. The truth was out now, spoken plain in a sacred space. She watched Mrs. Thompson, who'd banked at Rivergate for 40 years, nodding her gray head in rhythm. Saw young parents explaining to their children why this mattered. After the final song, as people gathered their things and moved toward the doors, Pastor Lila took Maya's arm. Her grip was strong, her eyes bright with purpose. "You've got them listening now," she whispered. "They can't pretend they don't understand anymore. Now we make them confess." Maya nodded, feeling the weight of what came next. In the back of the hall, reporters packed up cameras and checked recording levels. Community leaders clustered in small groups, already planning next steps. The truth was in motion now, rolling like a tide. In his office across town, Trent Marbury watched the live stream recording, jaw clenched tight, already plotting his response. But that was tomorrow's battle. Tonight belonged to truth, spoken plain in a church hall, witnessed by neighbors who couldn't unhear it. Maya sat at her kitchen counter, coffee growing cold beside her laptop. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds as the local news played on her small TV. Her spoon clinked against porcelain, stirring sugar that had long since dissolved. "Breaking news this morning," the anchor announced, his practiced concern perfectly calibrated. New footage has emerged from the Rivergate Federal Savings incident involving FBI agent Maya Ellison. The mug stopped halfway to her lips. On screen, a grainy security video played, but something was wrong. The angles were spliced, the timing distorted. It showed her reaching for her badge aggressively, her body language hostile. The actual moment, her calm explanation, had been cut entirely. Sources close to the investigation suggest Agent Ellison may have attempted to intimidate bank staff. The anchor continued. Assistant District Attorney Trent Marbury has announced he's reopening the fraud complaint with additional charges. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from Pastor Lila. "Turning on the news now. Lord have mercy." The footage replayed, worse each time. They'd edited out Priscilla's sneering remarks, Dwyer's aggressive stance. Instead, Maya appeared belligerent, uncooperative. The timestamps jumped subtly, unless you knew what to look for. "This is a serious development," a police union spokesman declared on screen. "No one, not even federal agents, should use their authority to circumvent banking security protocols." Maya dialed Avery, who answered on the first ring. "I'm already running video analysis," her partner said without preamble. "The edits are good, but they got sloppy with the metadata. Give me time." Time's the one thing they won't give us, Maya replied, watching Marbury step up to a podium outside the courthouse. After reviewing new evidence, he announced, straightening his red tie, "My office is amending the complaint to include attempted theft by deception and misuse of federal credentials." His practiced smile didn't reach his eyes. The public deserves to know that no one is above the law, especially those entrusted to enforce it. Maya's mother called next. "Baby, are you watching this foolishness?" "I'm watching, Mama. Pastor Lila says we're meeting tonight. The community won't stand for this." But Maya heard the worry beneath her mother's anger. This wasn't just about one incident anymore. They were trying to destroy her credibility, poison any investigation before it could begin. The day crawled by. Maya worked from home, reviewing case files, while text messages poured in from supporters. Around 6, Avery texted, "Heading home, made progress on tracking edit source." At 7:45, Maya's phone rang again. Avery's voice was breathless, shaken. "Someone followed me from the office," she said. "I noticed him 3 blocks back, tried to lose him on the metro. When I got off at my stop, he was there." Maya sat up straight. "Are you hurt?" "He grabbed my bag outside my building. I fought back, got some skin under my nails when I scratched him." "But Maya," Avery's voice cracked. "I checked my laptop. There are traces of remote access from 2 days ago. They cloned my hard drive before trying to steal it." "Where are you now?" "Inside my apartment. Doors locked, security system on." "Stay there," Maya ordered. "I'm calling in a protective detail." She was already reaching for her keys when movement caught her eye through the kitchen window. A dark sedan idled across the street, its engine humming in the evening quiet. As she watched, its headlights winked out one by one. "Maya," Avery's voice was small. "I'm scared." "I know, honey." Maya moved away from the window, keeping her voice steady. "But remember, they're scared too. That's why they're pushing so hard. The laptop had everything. All our financial tracking, the shell company data, which means we were getting close." Maya checked her service weapon, then her backup piece. "We knew they'd fight back. Now we know how much they're hiding." They talked for a few more minutes, Maya walking Avery through security protocols they both knew by heart. It helped to have procedure to hold on to when everything else felt uncertain. After they hung up, Maya stood in her darkened kitchen. The sedan remained outside, a shadow among shadows. Her phone lit up with another text from Pastor Layla. "Just saw the news. They think they can rewrite history. But God sees, and so do we." Maya touched her father's old badge, hanging framed on the wall. He'd faced nights like this, when truth seemed outgunned, when lies wore badges and business suits. She remembered him saying, "Baby girl, the thing about darkness is it can't stand inspection. Light finds every crack." The sedan's presence was a message. Back down. Look away. Let the system protect itself. But they'd forgotten who they were dealing with. Maya Ellison had spent her career following money through darkness, illuminating the hidden machinery of power and prejudice. Now they'd given her a new trail to follow, from edited footage to cloned laptops, from false charges to lurking sedans. Every move they made drew a clearer map of corruption. The war had escalated, yes, but that just meant they were afraid of what she'd find when she turned the lights on. Morning light glinted off the J. Edgar Hoover building's glass facade as Maya approached the employee entrance. She'd chosen her outfit carefully: charcoal pantsuit, crisp white blouse, polished shoes. Professional. Unimpeachable. Her heels clicked against marble as she strode to the security checkpoint. The guard, Tom, who'd greeted her with a smile for 15 years, wouldn't meet her eyes. "ID and badge, please, ma'am." Maya handed them over, noting how his hands trembled slightly. He swiped her credentials once, twice. The reader flashed red. "There seems to be an issue," he mumbled, radioing for backup. "Please step aside." Other agents flowed past, some stealing glances, others deliberately looking away. Maya stood perfectly still, chin high, as two security officers approached. "Agent Ellison, we need to escort you to the 7th floor." The elevator ride was silent. Maya catalogued details. The officers' names, timestamps, witness faces. Evidence. Always evidence. They emerged into the executive corridor where Deputy Director Phillips waited, his expression carefully neutral. "Agent Ellison." He gestured to his office. "Please." Inside, morning sun cast long shadows across his mahogany desk. Maya sat, back straight, hands folded. "This is temporary," Phillips began, shuffling papers he wasn't actually reading. "Given the current situation and ongoing investigation, we're reassigning you to administrative duties for optics." "Optics," Maya repeated, the word bitter as ash. "Your field credentials and building access are suspended pending review. You'll work from home until further notice." He finally met her gaze. "This isn't personal." "It's entirely personal, sir. They're trying to bury evidence of financial crimes by discrediting me." Phillips sighed. "Maya, you're one of our best. But this has become politically sensitive." On her way out, Maya passed the bullpen where she'd worked for 20 years. Agents ducked behind monitors. Phones suddenly needed answering. Only Avery, eyes red-rimmed from a lack of sleep, stood to embrace her. "They can't stop us," Avery whispered. "No," Maya agreed. "They can't." The security escort walked her out. As she reached her car, her phone buzzed. Chief Robles requesting an urgent meeting at a coffee shop 3 blocks away. The chief sat in a corner booth, civilian clothes making her look smaller somehow. She pushed a cup toward Maya. "I had to warn you," Robles said quietly. "Marbury's reach is bigger than I realized. He's got half the city council in his pocket through that police union PSC. The bank board chairman golfs with the mayor. Are you here to tell me to back down?" "I'm here to tell you to be careful." Robles leaned forward. "They're scared of you, Maya. Not just because you're FBI, because you can't be bought, and you don't get intimidated. That terrifies them." Maya sipped her coffee. "Fear makes people dangerous." "Yes, it does." Robles stood to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About that day at the bank. I should have done more." "You still can." The chief's sad smile spoke volumes as she walked away. Maya spent the afternoon reviewing files at home, building her case despite the restrictions. Around 6, her mother arrived with grocery bags and determination. "You need to eat," Geneva Ellison declared, shooing Maya from the kitchen. Soon, the house filled with familiar smells: cornbread, collard greens, her father's favorite chicken recipe. "Remember when Daddy faced that corruption investigation?" Geneva asked, stirring a pot. "They tried to take his badge, too." "I remember. He didn't back down either." "No, baby. Fighting for right runs in your blood." They ate together, talking about safer things, church gossip, neighborhood news, memories of better days. Maya helped with dishes afterward, finding comfort in the routine. Through the window, darkness had settled over the street. A car engine purred to life outside. Headlights swept across the kitchen wall, then went dark. The doorbell rang. "Stay here, Mama," Maya said quietly, moving to the front door. Her service weapon waited in the entryway drawer, but she left it there. Let them make the first move. Through the peephole, Rick Harlan stood on her porch, police uniform crisp, hat in hands. His smile was razor-sharp as she opened the door. "Evening, Agent Ellison." He spoke softly, almost pleasantly. "Beautiful night for a visit." "What do you want, Officer Harlan?" "Just passing by. Thought I'd share some friendly advice." He turned his hat in his hands. See, people who stir up mud tend to get dirty themselves. Shame if anything happened to this nice house. Or that sweet mama of yours. Maya's hand tightened on the door frame, but her voice remained steady. Are you threatening me, officer? Threatening? His laugh was hollow. I'm protecting. That's my job. He settled his hat back on his head. You have a good night now. Give your mama my regards. He walked away, whistling tunelessly. Maya watched until he reached his car, noting make, model, plate number. Evidence. Always evidence. She closed the door, and only then did she notice her hand trembling on the knob. But when she caught her reflection in the entryway mirror, her eyes were hard as steel. Let them come, she whispered, straightening her shoulders. I've got the truth. In the kitchen, her mother waited with a knowing look and fresh coffee. They sat together in the growing dark, two generations of women who knew about standing firm when the night tried to break them. Morning sunlight filtered through dust motes as Geneva Ellison climbed the narrow attic stairs, Maya following close behind. The wooden steps creaked under their feet, each sound echoing through decades of stored memories. Your father never threw away a single paper, Geneva said, moving toward a stack of boxes labeled in neat marker. Community Records, 1980, 1990. He always said, evidence tells stories that people won't. Maya helped her mother lift a heavy cardboard box, its corners soft with age. They carried it down to the kitchen table where Avery had set up her laptop, multiple screens displaying financial data streams. Look at this, Geneva said, pulling out a yellowed newsletter. The Neighborhood Watch Bulletin, 1987. She handled the brittle paper carefully, pointing to a headline, Rivergate Bank denies local business loans. Maya leaned in, reading aloud. Fourth rejection this month for qualified black business owners. Bank cites zoning concerns, despite city approval. That was just the beginning, Geneva continued, extracting more papers. Your father, he kept everything. Meeting minutes, protest flyers, loan rejection letters. Avery looked up from her screens. Mrs. Ellison, did they use standardized forms back then? Oh, yes. Carbon paper copies, all identical. Geneva rifled through the stack, producing a thin blue sheet. Like this one. See the letterhead? Same family owned the bank, the Knotts. Priscilla's grandfather was chairman. Maya's eyes narrowed. Priscilla Knott, the same manager who called the cops on me. Legacy of hate, Geneva muttered, spreading more documents across the table. Here, look at these maps. They were color-coded neighborhood layouts, red lines drawn thick around certain areas. Dates stamped in corners, loan amounts noted in margins, all marked denied in stark red ink. But this is the real treasure, Geneva said, pulling out a leather-bound community meeting book. Every Sunday after church, the neighborhood association met to document what was happening. Names, dates, patterns. Maya scanned the careful handwriting, pausing at a familiar name. Marbury. Senior? Trent's father, Geneva confirmed. He was the bank's primary attorney back then. Handled all their special paperwork. Avery whistled low, fingers flying over her keyboard. The same law firm still represents Rivergate. And look, campaign contribution records show donations to both Marbury's father and son going back 30 years. Maya touched the old papers gently. They built an empire on exclusion, passed it down like inheritance. And they're still at it, Avery added, turning one of her screens. I've been analyzing that surveillance video they leaked. The metadata tells an interesting story. She pulled up 2 timestamps, one from the doctored footage, one from the bank's transaction logs. See this? The video claims you were there at 9:47 a.m., but the teller system shows your check being processed at 10:23 a.m. They edited the timeline to make it look suspicious. Can you prove who altered it? Maya asked. Better. Avery grinned. I can prove where it was uploaded from. The IP address traces back to a computer in the DA's office, specifically Marbury's department. Geneva shook her head, gathering more papers. Some things never change, just the methods. She extracted a faded photograph showing a younger version of herself standing with other protesters outside Rivergate's original location. But we didn't give up then, and we won't give up now. Maya studied the faces in the old photo. Proud, defiant, determined. We have something they don't expect, don't we, Mama? The long memory of our community. That's right. Geneva patted her hand. They think if they don't write it down in their official records, it didn't happen. But we wrote everything down. We kept every receipt, every letter, every name. Avery's phone buzzed. Pastor Lila confirming tomorrow's rally location. Speaking of names, she said, I've cross-referenced these old loan rejection records with current bank board members. 5 families have maintained continuous control since the 80s, all connected through country club memberships, private school boards, and my false arrest, Maya finished. Same patterns, same players, same prejudice. They worked through the afternoon, building a timeline that spanned generations. Geneva's careful archives revealed a web of relationships, bankers, lawyers, politicians, all working to maintain their power through exclusion and intimidation. As evening approached, Maya spread the collected evidence across the table. Old documents beside new printouts, past and present aligned in damning parallel. The kitchen light cast long shadows over 30 years of systematic discrimination, now exposed to scrutiny. We end this where it started, at that bank, Maya said quietly, her finger tracing the route on an old street map. Her team nodded, understanding the weight of history behind tomorrow's confrontation. Geneva touched the protest photo again, then looked at her daughter with fierce pride. Your father would say it's time to balance the books. Saturday morning dawned clear and cool. Maya stood in front of her bathroom mirror, carefully attaching the tiny body camera to her blazer lapel. Her hands were steady, but her heart thumped with anticipation. Today would change everything. The drive to Rivergate took her past familiar streets, now lined with parked cars and people walking toward the bank. By 8:30, the parking lot had transformed into a sea of faces, gray-haired church ladies in their Sunday best, teenagers with hand-painted signs, community leaders in pressed suits. Mrs. Geneva Ellison sat in a folding chair near the makeshift stage, surrounded by other seniors from her generation. They'd brought their own documentation, folders of denied loan applications, old protest photos, faded but powerful proof of decades of discrimination. Looking sharp, boss, Avery called through Maya's earpiece. She'd set up her command center in the church's fellowship hall across the street, surrounded by monitors showing different angles of the crowd. I've got eyes on everything. DOJ team just arrived. 3 observers in plain clothes, scattered through the crowd. Maya scanned the growing assembly. Signs bobbed above heads. Dignity is not a crime. Bank justice now. Stop the corruption. Local news vans lined the street, cameras already rolling. The energy felt electric, controlled, but ready to spark. Pastor Lila strode through the crowd in her trademark purple suit, greeting people by name, radiating calm authority. She paused beside Maya, checking her own microphone. Everything in place? Avery's got the camera grid running. Chief Robles confirmed. She's got 2 internal affairs sergeants in that black SUV by the pharmacy. Maya nodded toward the vehicle. DOJ's here. Now we wait. For them to show their hand. Pastor Lila agreed. She squeezed Maya's arm. Your daddy would be proud of this moment. The clock struck 9. Pastor Lila took the stage, Really just a flatbed trailer draped with banners, and the crowd hushed. Her voice rang clear through the morning air. "We gather today not in anger, but in righteous determination," she began. "We come seeking restitution, not just for Agent Ellison's dignity, but for 30 years of systematic exclusion. We have the receipts, as our young folks say. We have the proof." Maya watched the bank's tinted windows. No movement inside. They'd closed for maintenance today, but she knew they were watching. Waiting. Through her earpiece, Avery reported, "Movement at the police staging area 3 blocks south. 2 units just pulled out." Pastor Lila continued, her words measured and strong. "When they put handcuffs on Maya Ellison, they thought they were restraining one woman. Instead, they shackled themselves to their own corruption. Today, we demand more than apologies. We demand change." The crowd responded with steady applause. Maya noticed some of her FBI colleagues scattered throughout, not officially, but present, standing witness. "Chief's SUV is moving," Avery murmured in Maya's ear, repositioning for better sight lines of the bank entrance. Pastor Lila gestured Maya forward. "And now, the woman they tried to silence will speak her truth." Maya approached the microphone, documents in hand. The morning sun felt warm on her face. Cameras clicked, phones raised to record. "Good morning," she began. "I'm not here to talk about my arrest. I'm here to talk about patterns of discrimination hidden behind policy, patterns of corruption masked as procedure." She held up the old redlining maps. "These patterns started before I was born. When they put those handcuffs on me, they were following a script written decades ago. But today, multiple units approaching from the south," Avery cut in urgently. 4 officers in riot gear. Maya continued smoothly. "Today we have evidence that connects past to present. The same families, the same methods, the same—" A ripple moved through the crowd. Maya felt it before she saw it. That instinctive tension when uniforms appear. Through the sea of faces, she caught glimpses of tactical gear. Helmets with face shields. "I count Dwyer and Harlan," Avery reported, "plus 2 others from their unit. They're trying to circle around the east side of the crowd." The seniors in the front rows closed ranks, their presence a quiet wall of dignity. Mrs. Geneva Ellison stood, leaning on her cane, eyes fierce and unafraid. Pastor Lila moved slightly closer to Maya, her voice steady in the microphone. "We see some officers joining us today. Remember, everyone, we stay peaceful. We stay focused. We stay righteous." The DOJ observers shifted position, notepads visible. Chief Robles' SUV edged closer, internal affairs officers stepping out to maintain clear lines of sight. Maya kept speaking, her voice carrying over the murmurs. "We're here because dignity matters, because truth matters, because justice—" The crowd's collective intake of breath made her pause. Through the morning glare, she saw them clearly now. Dwyer and Harlan, masked behind riot shields, moving with practiced coordination through the assembly. She felt the familiar chill of their presence, the same cold certainty she'd felt in the bank that first day. But this time was different. This time, she was ready. The crowd continued to cheer, their voices rising in support. But Maya's focus narrowed to the approaching officers, their badges catching sunlight through the shields. The trap was closing, exactly as planned. Through the amplified speakers, the crowd's chant grew stronger. "No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace." The rhythm pulsed through the morning air, unified and determined. Dwyer's voice cut through the chants, sharp and aggressive. "Security threat! Clear the area!" He shoved past a row of elderly women, nearly knocking Mrs. Jenkins off her walker. The crowd gasped but held firm. Maya watched Harlan's approach, noting the suspicious envelope clutched in his left hand. His right stayed near his belt, a classic intimidation stance. Their choreographed movements betrayed their intent. She'd seen this tactic before in corrupt arrests. "Stay back!" Pastor Lila's voice boomed through the speakers. "The whole world is watching." Phones raised higher, capturing every angle. Through her earpiece, Avery provided rapid updates. "All cameras operational. DOJ observers are moving to flank positions. IA units approaching from the west." Harlan reached the edge of the stage, his face mask unable to hide the smirk in his eyes. "Agent Ellison," he called out, voice dripping with mock courtesy. "We need to check a security concern." Maya stood her ground, microphone steady. "Officer Harlan, this is a peaceful assembly. Any security concerns should be—" He lunged forward, faster than his bulk suggested possible. His hand shot toward her coat pocket, the envelope visible between his fingers. Maya reacted instinctively, pivoting away from his grasp. The microphone clattered to the stage. "Don't you dare touch her!" Pastor Lila's voice thundered without amplification. The crowd surged forward protectively, but Maya had already shifted her weight. Using Harlan's momentum against him, she stepped aside while maintaining her balance. His grab met empty air, and his forward motion carried him straight into a folding table laden with water bottles. The crash echoed through the parking lot. Dwyer charged forward, shoving aside Mr. Washington, an 80-year-old deacon. "Resist arrest! She's resisting!" But before he could reach Maya, Pastor Leila grabbed the heavy wooden offering box from the donation table. With surprising speed for her age, she swung it in a perfect arc, connecting solidly with Dwyer's shoulder. He stumbled, cursing. The envelope tumbled from Harlan's grip as he struggled to right himself. It skidded across the stage, landing face up. The official label was clearly visible. District Attorney's Office, Evidence Control Division. "Camera 3 has clear shot of the label," Avery reported excitedly. "Getting multiple angles of everything!" More chaos erupted as the two internal affairs officers finally pushed through the crowd. One grabbed Dwyer's arm as he reached for his belt, while the other positioned himself between Harlan and Maya. The seniors formed an impromptu barrier, their bodies a wall of dignity and defiance. Mrs. Ellison's voice rang out, "Not today! Not to my daughter!" Avery's voice crackled through Maya's earpiece. "Footage is streaming live to 3 news stations. Got crystal-clear shots of the envelope plant attempt. The assault on Mr. Washington, everything." Harlan struggled to his feet, water bottles scattered around him. His mask had slipped, revealing a face contorted with fury. He reached for his radio, but before he could key it, a new voice cut through the chaos. "Federal jurisdiction!" The words sliced through the commotion like a blade. A tall figure in a charcoal suit stepped forward from the crowd, federal badge held high. The DOJ observer's voice carried authority without needing to shout. "This scene is now under Department of Justice control." The effect was immediate. Harlan's hand dropped from his radio. Dwyer stopped struggling against the IA officer's grip. The crowd's angry murmurs transformed into gasps of surprise, then scattered applause that quickly grew into a thunderous ovation. Maya stood perfectly still, watching the DOJ observer approach. 2 more federal agents emerged from different positions in the crowd, their badges catching the morning sun. "Agent Ellison," the lead observer nodded respectfully. "We've been monitoring since the initial incident. Today's events will be included in our broader investigation." Through her earpiece, Avery whispered triumphantly, "Got everything. Every single second." The observer turned to address Harlan and Dwyer, his voice carrying clearly across the now hushed crowd. "Officers, you'll need to surrender your badges and weapons to Internal Affairs. You're now persons of interest in a federal civil rights investigation." Pastor Lila still held the offering box, her purple suit somehow immaculate despite the scuffle. She stepped forward, placing herself protectively beside Maya. The morning sun highlighted the silver in her hair like a crown. The crowd's applause continued, punctuated by cheers and hallelujahs. Mrs. Ellison made her way to the stage, tears streaming down her face, but her head held high. All around them, phones kept recording, documenting justice as it unfolded in real time. Maya watched as IA officers began processing Harlan and Dwyer, the latter still rubbing his shoulder where the offering box had struck. The envelope from the DA's office had been carefully preserved as evidence, photographed exactly where it had fallen. Through it all, the signs continued to wave above the crowd. Dignity is not a crime. In this moment, those words felt more powerful than ever. Evening shadows stretched across Maya's living room as news helicopters circled downtown. Every major network had broken into regular programming with breaking news banners splashed across the screen. We're bringing you live coverage of what's being called the Rivergate Conspiracy, the Channel 4 anchor announced, her voice tense with controlled excitement. Earlier today, dramatic events unfolded at a community rally that exposed what appears to be widespread corruption. Maya sat on her couch, still in her rally clothes, watching multiple networks simultaneously on her tablet and TV. Beside her, Avery typed furiously, documenting every detail as it emerged. "The evidence is overwhelming," declared a legal analyst on Channel 7. "The envelope discovered at the scene bears official district attorney inventory markings. This wasn't just a rogue operation, this goes straight to the top." Security footage from the DA's office, obtained through Avery's digital warrants, showed the envelope being removed from evidence storage yesterday. The timestamp matched perfectly with Marbury's late-night office visit. "Turn up Channel 2, Maya said suddenly. "They're showing the arrests." The footage was crystal clear. Harlan and Dwyer being led out of the Internal Affairs building in handcuffs. Their faces, once smug with authority, now showed the shock of men who never expected consequences. The charges scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, civil rights violations, conspiracy. "Look at Harlan," Avery noted. "Not so tough without that badge." The scene switched to Rivergate Federal Savings, where FBI agents were escorting Priscilla Knott out the front doors. Her designer suit couldn't hide her trembling hands as she tried to shield her face from the cameras. The reporter's voiceover detailed the charges: bank fraud, conspiracy, and multiple civil rights violations tied to discriminatory banking practices. Mrs. Ellison brought in a fresh pot of coffee, settling into her favorite armchair. "Lord have mercy," she murmured, watching her daughter's vindication unfold on every channel. The biggest moment came at 8 p.m. ADA Trent Marbury had called an emergency press conference on the courthouse steps. The cameras showed him approaching the podium, his normally immaculate appearance betrayed by sweat stains and a crooked tie. "My fellow citizens," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "In light of recent events, and what I maintain are misleading interpretations of evidence," he paused to dab his forehead with a handkerchief, "I am announcing my immediate resignation as Assistant District Attorney." The press corps erupted. Marbury tried to maintain his composure, but his denials grew increasingly desperate. "These allegations are completely unfounded." A reporter cut him off. "What about the envelope from your office, Mr. Marbury? How do you explain the evidence tag?" He fled the podium as questions rained down, his security detail forming a barrier against the surging media crowd. The image of his retreat would play on loop throughout the night. "Poetry," Avery said softly. "Pure poetry." At 9 p.m., Chief Elena Robles took the same podium, but her approach was dramatically different. Her uniform was crisp, her stance straight, her words clear and unwavering. The events of recent weeks have exposed systemic failures within our department, she began. Today, I am announcing comprehensive reforms under Department of Justice oversight. We will implement mandatory bias training, revise use of force protocols, and establish an independent civilian review board. She turned to face the camera directly. To Agent Maya Ellison, on behalf of the Rivergate Police Department, I offer our formal and unreserved apology. All charges have been dropped, and your record will be expunged immediately. Pastor Leela called minutes later. Child, God don't like ugly, but he sure loves justice. Her voice carried the weight of decades fighting this same battle. Your daddy would be so proud today. As the evening wore on, more details emerged. The FBI had seized records from Rivergate Federal Savings showing years of discriminatory practices. Harlan's phone records revealed coordination with Marbury's office dating back months. Dwyer had already begun cooperating with investigators, trading information for consideration. Around 11 p.m., most of the news crews had finally packed up. The helicopters had stopped circling. A gentle quiet settled over Maya's kitchen, broken only by the soft clink of coffee mugs as she and Avery sat at the familiar table where they'd planned their response weeks ago. They really thought humiliation would break you, Avery said, shaking her head in wonder. She remembered Maya's quiet dignity in those first difficult days, the way she'd channeled her anger into methodical action. Maya wrapped her hands around her warm mug, considering. The bruises from the handcuffs had long since faded, but the memory of that morning in the bank remained sharp. It just clarified my mission, she replied, her voice soft but firm. The kitchen clock ticked steadily in the background. Through the window, stars were visible in the clear night sky. On the counter, Maya's phone continued to light up with messages of support and congratulations, but for now, she let them wait. This quiet moment of reflection with her closest ally felt more important than any public validation. The system that had tried to break her had cracked instead, exposing its own rot. But Maya knew that true change required more than just one victory, no matter how sweet. Tonight was for savoring justice served, but tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles for dignity and fairness. A week had passed since justice crashed down on Rivergate Federal Savings. The morning sun streamed through the newly cleaned windows, casting warm rectangles across the marble floor. Maya Ellison stood before the mirror in her apartment, adjusting her crisp FBI suit jacket. The badge on her hip caught the light. No longer a secret to be held back, but a symbol of authority restored. Her mother, Geneva, smoothed an invisible wrinkle from Maya's shoulder. Your father would be so proud today, she said softly. Not just of the victory, but of how you carried yourself through it all. Pastor Leela arrived to drive them, her Sunday best brightening the morning. Ready to make another deposit? She asked with a knowing smile. This time without the dramatics? The drive to Rivergate was different now. Gone were the news vans and protest signs. Instead, community members gathered peacefully on the sidewalk, many holding small American flags. Several of Maya's elderly neighbors had brought folding chairs, determined to witness this moment. As they pulled up, Chief Elena Robles stood waiting at the entrance, her uniform pressed and badge gleaming. The weight of accountability had straightened her spine, given new purpose to her stance. She'd spent the past week implementing sweeping departmental changes, starting with a complete overhaul of arrest protocols and bias training. Maya held the familiar envelope containing the $287,400 check, the same one that had sparked this transformation. The paper felt different now, heavy with vindication rather than hope. Inside, the bank fell silent as Maya entered. Tellers stopped mid-transaction, their eyes following her movement across the floor. The security guard, a new hire, nodded respectfully. Gone were Dwyer and Harlan's smirking faces, replaced by properly trained professionals who understood the meaning of protect and serve. Angela Ruiz, the young teller who had witnessed Maya's humiliation that first day, stepped forward to assist. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the check, but her smile was genuine. "Welcome back, Agent Ellison," she said clearly. "How can I help you today?" Maya placed the check on the counter with deliberate grace. "I'd like to make a deposit," she replied, her voice carrying in the hushed space. "For the Ellison Center for Tech and Justice." Chief Robles stepped forward, her presence official yet humbled. "Agent Ellison," she began, her voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "On behalf of the Rivergate Police Department, I want to formally apologize for the injustice you experienced. Your dignity should never have been questioned, and your rights never violated." The words echoed across the marble, reaching every corner where prejudice had once lurked. Maya nodded, accepting the apology with the same quiet strength she'd shown throughout the ordeal. Angela processed the deposit with careful precision, each keystroke a reminder of how procedure could serve justice rather than obstruct it. The receipt printed with a soft whir, official confirmation that the funds would support technology education and legal advocacy for underserved communities. Through the windows, Maya could see the growing crowd outside. Mr. Hammond, the veteran who had spoken up during her arrest, sat in his folding chair, proudly wearing his service cap. The church choir had assembled on the steps, their robes catching the morning light. Geneva squeezed Maya's hand as the transaction completed. Her mother's eyes glistened with tears, but her smile radiated pride. This was more than a deposit. It was a declaration that dignity demanded respect. Pastor Lila stood tall beside them, her presence a bridge between past struggles and future progress. She had witnessed too many instances of injustice in this very lobby, but today marked a new chapter. Outside, scattered applause began as Maya emerged. Across the street, workers were finishing the installation of the new sign, the Ellison Center for Tech and Justice, its letters bold against the brick building that would soon house computer labs, legal clinics, and community meeting spaces. The choir began to sing softly, their harmonies carrying across the morning air. "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around," the familiar words wrapped around the gathering like a blessing. Maya's eyes found the new plaque installed beside the bank's entrance. The brass surface caught the sunlight as she read the words that would greet every customer. The right to dignity is not subject to verification. The message was simple but profound, a permanent reminder etched in metal of the change one person's stand for justice could create. The bank would never again be just a building where transactions occurred. It had become a monument to resistance, to resilience, to the power of truth against systemic oppression. Standing between her mother and Pastor Lila, Maya felt the weight of generations, those who had fought before her, and those who would benefit from this victory. The choir's voices rose in gentle victory, weaving through the morning air like threads of hope. She smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun and the strength of community. The check was deposited, but its impact would continue to draw interest in the form of changed lives, opened doors, and preserved dignity. Justice had not only been served, it had been permanently invested in the future of her community. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day!